Hello, Salesforce admins. Your guest host, Josh Burke here. Today on the show, we're going to welcome Kurtis Kemple, who's overrunning developer advocacy at Slack. We're going to talk about Slack. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about Kurt's beginnings. And it's just, this was a great interview. Very happy we got it on tape. And so let's go right over to Kurt. All right, today on the show, we welcome Kurtis Kemple of Salesforce Developer Advocacy. Kurt, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start, like I usually start, talking about people's early years. And you have a very, let's not say unique, but a very interesting early days of getting into computing. You're self-taught in web development, and you learned that in prison, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I like to think of it more, I prefer to think of it more as self-guided.
Okay.
I'd like to take all the credit, but I was still reading books, watching, YouTube videos, paying for courses. So, you're still like creating a learning environment more so than just in prison, I did have nothing, but, then like I just opened a laptop and just, essentially like went at code with nothing.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like I don't want to essentially leave out all the people who I wouldn't, I wouldn't be here without them.
Did you have an interest in computers beforehand, or was it just sort of here's this moment in my life and I want to make changes and I want to learn something new?
It was definitely that second one, but not related to code. So it was pure happenstance.
Okay.
Prior to incarceration, I had very limited experience in technology. I had a pager once when I was 18. Cell phones were coming out, and I would download music off LimeWire. Right, that was like it. I had typed with two fingers, pecking at the keyboard.
Do the licking over the keys with the finger on either side.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I also love doing interviews like this because we always accidentally date ourselves.
Oh my Lord. Yeah.
In some wonderful way.
I know people are going like, what's a pager?
Yeah.
They're like, I've seen those in TV.
I know, right? Did they beep or something like that? They had numbers on them. Yeah. I didn't get a cell phone for like a long time because my dad's a doctor and he had a pager, and I remember hating the fact that he would be taken away from the dinner table, right? Because his pager's on his belt. I'm like, I don't want to have constant access to people always be able to call me. And now, of course, I'm the dude that my wife slaps my wrist because I'm picking up the cell phone during dinner with friends. So
absolutely,
just as addicted as everybody else. So tell me a little, because tech is not the easiest thing to break into, and there's ageism, there's sexism, there's racism, there's the old white guy syndrome, all this kind of stuff. With a record of a conviction, what challenges were you facing there?
Sheesh. I'd say
how many hours do we have?
honestly.
Yeah.
Look, this is for all you PMs out there. I'm going to throw in a little product analogy, but there's a ton of upfront friction, right? It's like they would never let me get through to the other side to kind of realize the value, right? So it's like having that record, it's immediately, that's I don't want to mess with that. Mm-hmm. They had no idea that on the flip side of that, I was willing to work so hard to prove myself, so hard.
Yeah.
And so, I think, there's two sides to every coin, but it was a big blocker. It's just immediate no's. You have conversations with people and they're like, oh, that's interesting. And then, they find out about the record, or, back then you had to check a box, have you been convicted of a felony in the last 7 years, or, since you've got out? Mm-hmm. And it's I have. But I thought the whole point of going through half a decade of incarceration was that I did that, right? I paid my dues.
Right.
But no, you're doing time for forever after you get out in the U.S., honestly.
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad that you have managed to break your way into tech and join us. Tell me a little bit about your current job.
Yeah. So, from there, right, all the way learning and coding, I went through an entire career in software engineering. And then I ended up making a switch to DevRel about 8 years ago. And then I went from IC up in DevRel, really, up to leadership. And so now I'm Senior Director of Developer Relations here at Salesforce, and I focus on Slack platform.
And tell me a few of those highlights, because you've worked for companies like, if I'm remembering your CV correctly, like Amazon, correct?
Yeah, I've worked for a ton of pretty big companies. Some that might not be as well known, but you know them in certain verticals. So I worked at like Integral Ad Science, which is like actually, if you've ever seen an ad, like they're the analytics platform behind the analytics platforms. So it was a really big one. And then, from there, like a bunch of places that culminated with my last job, like as a full-time engineer. I was the tech lead of the UI team at Major League Soccer. And so we built. Yeah, it was a really fun one. So we built all the interfaces like that fans interface with, like user interface, literally chatbots, Roku, Fire TV, websites, mobile apps, like you name it. We built it.
Nice. Very, very nice. Now, this is kind of a personal question for myself because it's one I get frequently, and I apparently struggle to answer it correctly because I still have people in my life who have no idea what I do. What is developer evangelism? or advocacy? Are you on the which of the labels do you land on, evangelist or advocate?
So I think at any point you might be doing a bit of both in reality in these days. But if we wanted to put a label on it, you could say evangelism is more outbound driven. Advocacy, ideally, you're doing a lot of inbound, right? Like we're advocating. Right. We're both internally and externally, we're providing feedback. I would say I lean heavily. I'm a very product-driven person, so I lean on the advocacy. I want to unlock better developer experience through like improvements to the product.
Got it.
That's like my main thing, but also, I love getting out there and just talking and like engaging with people. Interestingly enough, because I am introverted, but I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's such an interesting trend in advocacy and evangelism. I remember having a beer with a former evangelist actually, and I'm like, well, I'm a closet introvert, right? Like he's like, no, you're not. I'm like, no, dude. You have no idea the level. I mean, one of the first things I told my therapist is I have raging social anxiety, and so I decided to go into public speaking. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why.
I wanted to live my worst fear daily.
Right. Exactly. Oh yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit about. So our focus is admins, and what I'm kind of curious is like how because first of all, I'm a huge Slack fan, and it's one of the purchases that I'm like, oh, I get this one. Like sometimes, Mark buys a company, I'm like, I don't know who they are. I don't know why we would use them. First of all, I'm very glad we purchased Slack because it finally answered an age-old question of which IM service should we use to talk to our teammates? And like, yay,
really?
We finally have it's horrible. It was GChat and it was Pop this, and then there's Chatter, and it's like to have everybody agree was great. But how do you see, like in the Salesforce ecosystem, like what is Slack's role as a product?
Yeah. And this is so great because this ties right into administration as well. Like it's the operating system, like without a doubt, like that is, I don't know. I think of like a computer, right? Like extrapolating out a bit, like higher level. It is aggregating all of the useful tools, access to information, communication channels, right? But that is very broad, very general. It's covering it for everything. Slack narrows in onto one particular aspect of your life, work, right? Or actually, I won't even say work, but I will say like collaborative organization and communication, because that, like, we have like millions of communities on Slack as well, right? And yeah, I think that it's about that. Honestly, it's like it's like an operating system to help you organize and be productive and like get things done. And especially now when you put the lens of work on it, like it becomes even more valuable, right? Like that starts turning into dollars, and it's tangible, like tracked billions of dollars.
Yeah. And I really love positioning it as, it's kernel is kind of the, oh gosh, I just made an OS pun. I didn't mean to. It's kernel is sort of that collaborative tool, but then there's all these other layers to it to help people be more productive and be more collaborative. And over the years, we've had tighter integrations with Slack and Salesforce. What are some of the key integrations that come to mind when I'm using Slack, but I'm also trying to interface with Salesforce?
Salesforce channels, like without a doubt, if those are not set up, oh my Lord, it is a game changer. So quick links right at the top, taking action within Salesforce. Again, for me, it's like the work operating system. I don't want to switch context. I don't care if it's to switch a window for 3 seconds to click a button, or I have to go out there and do a bunch of other things. It breaks the flow of work. And to me, what I'm actually most excited about is when you look at a Salesforce channel, you've got your conversation. Let's say it's related to whatever, like an account. There might be like your opportunities or the health score or like recent notes, and all this stuff is right there, right in the team channel as soon as you drop in. And I've been, I'm sure that we use Slack more than most people use Slack, right? Because we are Slack and Salesforce. But if you are starting to take advantage of those tools, like I've got all my documents related to the DevRel team, like in our DevRel channel, it's just like so convenient. But when you integrate other systems in that, like Salesforce, and now it's not, I just have like a canvas, but it's like real time updates and back and forth collaboration. Okay. My job keeps me mostly in Salesforce platform. It's day-to-day business as usual. But if I spend most of my time in Slack, I'm no longer breaking the flow of work. Even if it is just a few times, that can really have an effect, like compounded. So I would say definitely that. And now the counterpart to that is we've got the Slack channels in Salesforce.
So cool. So cool. Is that GA? Like how do people turn that on, or is it just sort of there?
It is GA. How do people turn it on? I think it's just there if you already have things connected, right? So like if you set up a Salesforce channel connection, it will show up for you in Slack, in the Slack UI with the Slack way of doing things. And if you're in Salesforce, then you get the Slack channel messaging still available, everyone, conversation, one place, but you have your Salesforce UI that you've custom designed and built around you so that you can do your work more efficiently. Right. And I think, people talk about, I'm sorry, I swear I'll let you talk right after this, but you hit on something so key. I swear to God.
Go.
It took us a while to get here, right? Like, look at this. Yeah. We're like 3-4 years into this thing, right? Like more. And, but when you look at how to like thoughtfully integrate like something like Slack and Salesforce, there's gonna be some trial and error, I know people wanted it faster and I wish we gave it to them, but I'm actually just happy that the things we're building now are so much in the flow of work. Like there's some things coming up that I don't know if I can talk about. I should have ran through the list, but I cannot wait. Wait for folks to see because they're bridging Salesforce and Slack in ways that are just amazing and are really going to close the gap, like for like ease of use and just being able to stay where you're meant to be and do your job.
Nice. I want to touch on that a little bit, but I also want to kind of applaud the engineering team over there because the demos I've done, and I'm old. I've done integrations. My first application was a CGI, getting things to work. But integrating systems sometimes isn't easy. The seamless OAuth in between Slack and Salesforce is pretty cool. Like the idea that you have this mirror user and then you just tell Salesforce, this is my user over here, go be Slack. And then I'm like, what do you mean there's no OAuth window? What do you mean I don't have to worry about tokens? You're already you. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have a follow-up there? Or?
I do. I do. Yeah. So seamless auth, I think, is foundational. As a matter of fact, I see this as foundational to the entire Salesforce ecosystem.
Ooh.
So now that's seamless. All right. So here's the deal. Imagine now it's like, click of a button. I deploy a Slack workspace for my Salesforce org.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But now it's like, I want to also extend my operating system, my Slack org, right? So I want to start building and deploying apps. Well, what if that user was also seamless auth to Heroku and you could just deploy your apps immediately right to Heroku? And what if you wanted to use like MuleSoft APIs to further extend it? But guess what? what? You're the same user there too. So now it's like you can immediately spin up these like really redonkulous, like enterprise grade ready, all seamlessly authenticated systems and just like go to town.
Right. Well, and that really starts to put the cap on the concept of it being an operating system, right?
Bingo.
It's Slack, it's Salesforce, it's MuleSoft, it's Heroku, it's whatever in our ecosystem that you have to touch. And I'm gonna be very honest. When Canvases really became a thing, I was kind of like, okay, why? I've got docs, I've got this kind of stuff, and then our team recently tasked me with trying to track some pilot features, right? Mm-hmm. And I was struggling with, well, where should this live? Because of course, this is not going to surprise you. My first instinct was custom object, throw it in the enterprise org that we all collaborate on, keep them as records, blah, 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 blah. Right?
Bingo, yeah.
And then
permissions, groups, we're all good to go, right? Right.
And then I thought about exactly what you were talking about before. How many touch points is that for somebody to go and read something that they're not? This is something people are intended to scan. That's it, right? This isn't a research doc. It's here are some things to think about in front of Dreamforce, and I'm like, that's why I put it into a canvas. That's it. It's right there, and you can just click that button and go. Now, speaking of OSs and conversational UIs, because I think this touches a little bit on what you just said about like deploying workspaces and things like that, because we now have Slack actions in Agentforce as standard actions. Can you tell me a little bit about those?
Yes, I absolutely can. So, you want to be able to take action in Slack from Agentforce, right? It's like if that is the work operating system and agents are truly supposed to be doing work on my behalf, I want those reports summarized and put into a canvas and added to my channel. I want to set up DMs maybe with somebody from customer success and sales or IT and wherever, right? Like I think as we see Agentforce start to grow more in maturity, we're going to need to see a lot more like Slack actions. And fun fact, like little shout out to the DevRel team over here. If you want to extend beyond the Slack actions that exist, we've already got the docs all set up for you for building custom Slack actions for Agentforce. So you can literally just roll as your oyster with Slack. And technically they work for any service. We're not doing anything particularly bespoke, but it's nice because you can set up a Slack app, which gives you all the proper authentication to either be you or a bot, right? Depending on how you want to set all that up.
Right.
And then you can now start taking that even further. You can have agents like doing things on your behalf, like responding to messages or summarizing things and aggregating stuff, updating records in Salesforce or updating, channels and canvases and lists within Slack. Kicking off Slack workflows, all kinds of stuff. Like all this is, yeah. And, but to be honest, that's all very well and good, except I think until we get agents more deeply integrated into the UI of Slack, into your flow of work, we're just scratching the surface. And we're working on some cool stuff now that you'll see. But like right now, it's really just like the agents are there. You know what I mean? Like we brought them into Slack, but you're kind of sidecard. They still have access to all your info, have access to the relevant channel and stuff like that, or channels. And now you can actually message them in channel, which is like a big step forward, but that's still very much like the initial phases. Like I can't wait for all the stuff we'll be able to do. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna free you from the restraints of a forward-looking statement.
Dude, let's do it.
Yes, and we're going to walk right into the land of theory. So everybody listening to me right now, this is not a product roadmap. Kurtis is not promising you anything. I am just going to ask, what's your dream version of an agent residing in Slack?
All right. So I think it's twofold. Oh my gosh. Oh man, this is going to get so deep. Here we go.
I love it.
All right. I think number one, I think agents should be able to be like preferential. Like they should learn about you over time, specifically. Not general knowledge, not learning about all of the people in Slack, you specifically. So I would like to see more of that happen because then you get into like generative use cases. Like it would better understand what actions to take, better understand what things to do because of you, right? And how you specifically have interacted with it. So I think that's one. And then two is like, this is going to sound so funny because we're the conversational interface, but it's like we've already cracked that nut. Like we're good there. What if agents were more in flow into like where like literally to the micro flow of work? Like when I highlight text, I should be able to like kick off agent actions and send that to agents. And then I would love to see more eventually like agent orchestration. So right now we've got a few agents, but let's assume you're like X Corp, 5,000 to 10,000 employees. You open up Agent Force for them. They build one agent per, well, not everyone would, but realistically, now you're talking about thousands of agents within your environment. Yeah. That could be a lot, right, to handle. Yeah. So I think like winning the game there is about making it a lot easier to synthesize and have AI help you manage that.
A couple of team meetings ago, we were joking about whether or not we should consider adding a mental health topic to our agent force. And as you're saying that, I'm like, okay, so one of these days, my Slack channel is going to have an agent in it, and that agent's going to be like, dude, you've got too many meetings this week. Go take a walk.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Or there's like, hey, there's like 13 agents in here and going through like their topics and descriptions, right? Their classification. Yeah. These are all doing roughly the same thing or something like that. Or like, here's all these agents around your org that are all doing the same thing. I think, a lot of stuff like, I've just been big in like AI lately in non-conversational use cases. So kicking off from buttons and stuff like that, right? Like, I think we should get a little bit back to that. Yeah. And then two, I would like for agents to not just be specific to a topic or an industry, but specific to me.
Got it. I love it. I love it. And one of the things I preach often is, if you are a Salesforce admin, you're already an AI builder, right? Because if you know Flow, you already know how to extend an AI. If you've ever done, a trigger. And one of the things that I've seen some of your use cases, and that's what I want to dig into next, but it's like, it's interesting how simple Flow can be, but also how much more power it can add to an AI and to an agent simply because of its ability to integrate like with external systems and other things. What are some uncommon use cases that you've tinkered with when it comes to, and we'll do Flow / Apex, right? Because they're pretty parity when it comes to features these days. So don't limit yourself to just Flow. But what are some uncommon use cases where maybe somebody's like, oh, I didn't think an agent would do that?
I think we rely a lot when we think of Agent Force, we immediately just zoom in on like, that is our agent. Like we have the reasoning engine and then we have the actual agent itself. And that's like the only access to LLMs within Agent Force. And that's not true.
Yeah.
So, we've got Salesforce has the LLM Open Connect standard. You can attach any LLM you want to as a foundational model if you have Data Cloud. And you can start doing models for all kinds of things, like specific actions, like a model per action. This was kind of blowing people's minds when I started showing them this. I have actions that can help me summarize text. Actions that actually help me review and rewrite text, actions that help me with code instruction, actions that help me analyze data. I have my Salesforce developer advocate model that helps me learn Apex, Lightning Web Components, policies, and setup. I'm becoming an admin myself. I'm starting to get pretty dangerous in there.
I love it. Nothing wrong with being a double or triple threat out there. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
I could dive more into third-party services too, though, because I think that's a big one that we've not tapped on.
Go for it.
Yeah. So aside from custom LLMs, which like, again, now you can handle any use case you want, but you're like, Salesforce is like the most integrated platform probably in the history of platforms, right? And I think people try to leave a lot of that at the door. And so we'll get into Flow and Apex next, but those are the gateway for this, right? Because I can set up external services or like auth providers or, like I said, custom models. And then all of those things, prompt templates are great for really controlling the responses in Agentforce. All these tools become available to you. And so you can, like, I have an engineering agent that actually, this is a cool one. It pulls down like my PRs for me that I have. And it will like spin up GitHub code spaces. And I can run the code, review it, and then be like, this looks good. Please break that down, merge this for me. And it goes off and does it.
I love it. I love it. And for the admin non-technical group, PR, pull request. So basically, we keep coming back to this theme, right? Like, where are your engineers working? Well, they're probably talking to each other in Slack. They're probably talking about that pull request in Slack. Why get out of Slack once they've already approved it in Slack? So why get out of Slack in order to approve it and then add that to the code base?
That's it. I'm in the flow of work. I never left Slack. I sat down and I said, oh, you know what? I have a few minutes. Now here's the beauty. I said, I have a few minutes. Let me see what I can tackle. If I had to leave to go to GitHub to do that, it would have never happened. I would have looked for things I could do a few minutes right within Slack.
Yeah. Yeah. You know how some people have a swear jar, right? I thought about just putting a jar in the kitchen to put a penny in every time I walked in the kitchen and forgot what I was going to do.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, if I have to leave Slack, I'm probably getting a coffee or figuring out why the cat's meowing or something like that. Yeah, totally.
Literally.
Totally. I want to dig a little bit more into the custom models. And because it's one thing I have been curious about. I have not played with it much myself. And one of the things I keep kind of, when I'm talking about AI, is, kind of breaking down this concept that it's a rocket science sort of thing.
Yes.
Yes, I've seen the math and it made my eyes bleed, basically. Like if you want to understand the formulas, you're probably going to be a Stanford research scientist. If you want to use the technology, though, you already have the skills. And one of the things that's interesting about the concept of a custom model is like when we do an API call to OpenAI, right? OpenAI is intended to know how to cook a rotisserie chicken.
Right.
Admins don't need to know, our users don't need to know how to use a rotisserie chicken when they're in Slack.
No, I don't need a model that can talk like a pirate. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Although prompts that talk like a pirate are a fun demo to do.
They are.
But what is involved in creating a custom agent? Like when you say, I created an agent that understands Apex and LWC.
Yeah. So I actually created an action and I just attached that action to the agent. So here's the cool thing. I'm not training anything. Okay. AI has gone from frontier to product, common product so fast. Like if we look at the Wardley scale, probably faster than anything else in the history of humankind. Yeah. And we are now at the stage where AI, you can have access to very specifically trained models to do something very well through a simple API call. You need nothing. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say simple, because even API calls can be complex for those unfamiliar. Yeah. My point being is that you don't have to train your own models. You don't have to be an AI or ML engineer. You don't even have to be a developer. Yeah. If you can open up Postman and figure out how to use a couple API endpoints, that's all you need to become very active with AI. And then it's just a matter of identifying which models are best for which job. And trust me, there is no shortage of that information online.
Where are some of your favorite places to find custom models?
I definitely lean heavily into Hugging Face. So it's basically like the GitHub for models and data sets and stuff like that. Yeah. I like it because it's the platform I found that opens the most transparency. So it's like you can even, a lot of them can even record like the carbon footprint of what it costs to train their models. And they have little cards right there on Hugging Face. Yeah. So cool. It is. It's cool. You can also see the data sets for a lot of them, what they're trained on. Nice. But they also have access to all like your big, what I call the 100 million club models. Like you need $100 million or more to train. Right. They've got access to all those as well. I like it because then I use one API, Hugging Face API, and then I just switch the model like as a one property, and I can completely change the response. Absolutely.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very, very cool. So let's broaden a little bit outside of the world of Slack and Salesforce, because I know you've also talked in general about the importance of democratizing artificial intelligence. Give me a little bit of a pitch on that.
All right. So, it goes back to incarceration, right? Like, the only reason I was able to have, and this is also why I said like self-guided, not self-taught. Like the only reason I was able to succeed is because enough people had come before me in tech and been willing to share what they had learned. That is not common. Like go Google like how to become a doctor. There's not doctors out there writing blog posts on how to become a doctor. There's not electricians doing it, accountants, bankers. I could go down the list. Now there are some. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't want to talk negatively about any industry. Trust me, there are people out there. Yeah. But there's not the wealth of information that there is for learning tech, for especially coding. Yeah. Look even in the Salesforce ecosystem, right? So I look at Trailhead. I am so blown away by what I call the opportunity funnel of something like Trailhead in the Salesforce community. Say what you want, but nothing is like a career creator vacuum for people who have non-traditional or resource deficient backgrounds. And have a viable career. So circling back, imagine if I had a small uninternet connected device with a model trained specifically on code instruction to help me along in there instead of one textbook and like my teacher being willing to print out some pages on like JavaScript mouse events.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that, I think there's kind of a harmonious cycle there, because I think a lot of it is also how, like, especially techie people, whether you're an admin, a developer, an architect, whatever, I feel like we learn once we do it, sort of thing. We can read it, we can see it, but like this statement alone is probably why I'm in computers. Back when I was in school and we got to play around with Apple IIs, I think they were Apple IIes, and our teacher said, do whatever you want in this class. You are not going to break the computer by typing code into it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it was all of a sudden just like, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to go 2 lines for 1,000, it's just to see what happens. And it was like, that is so, it's like, it was so freeing, it's so freeing just to be able to be like, in JavaScript, anytime somebody asks me like, how should I start? I'm like, start with JavaScript. It's free. You can do it in a browser. You can instantly see the results, when you're typing into it. It's great. And back to your point, my father was a doctor, and I asked my dad how to become a doctor, and his advice was don't. Yeah. So
there you go. Right? And I just think like, but even for becoming a doctor, I think AI changes the technology landscape, the learning curve, the accessibility. So I think another piece of this too, and about democratizing AI, again circling back to the $100 million club, is that like a lot of information is available through AI, but it's not available through AI right now, honestly? Expertise.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I feel like we're still in that phase where we're the experts.
Yes.
And AI is trying to catch up to us in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I've run into, like, I've used ChatGPT just to write a simple Apex class. And sometimes it not only nails it, I'm like, okay, that's prettier code than I would have written, And then sometimes it's like, you dumb bot.
That's it. And it's literal, like, it's statistics, it's probability. Yeah. And the reason why is because if it's trained on the whole internet, like, chances are there's as much bad info about it as there is good. Yeah. So but also, I think about like this, like even getting deeper than that, like, cause that's still recognition, right? But like, you could tell me every song on like a Taylor Swift album, right? Like as AI, but you can't tell me why Taylor Swift like arranged the tracks the way she did, like what she's listening for, like, when she knows it's the right time to make an album, if she even cares at all. And it's just like all is actually just like, woohoo, like who knows?
Yeah. And I think based on how much Swifties themselves analyze her songs, that by the time AI can tell you what Taylor was thinking when she wrote a song,
too late.
We're at the singularity.
That's it. It's
over. It's over, guys.
We've been Borgs, and everybody knows why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So totally switching gears. I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about Forthright.
Oh, okay. So Forthright, actually, I do not run that anymore, the consultancy, but it was fun. It was amazing. So I was doing DevRel consultancy actually before I joined Salesforce and Slack. Cool. I had a number of jobs in developer relations. This is still very awesome and relevant. Yeah. But I just felt like I was, I don't like to do things like kind of in isolation. Like I don't want to make assumptions or not have other information to lean on, right? Like it makes sense when we want to put care into something, we want to ensure we do it. It's actually how I got into DevRel. When I was at Major League Soccer, we wanted to adopt React Native and GraphQL. They were both being used in production by a lot of places, big companies and stuff, but really nobody was talking about it yet. So, yeah, I selfishly, like very selfishly, started writing blog posts about them, talking to people from the companies. I started GraphQL NYC meetup. I started doing talks at the React Native meetup, just to hear how other people were doing things so that I could do a better job at MLS. I was a tech lead. It's like literally my job to understand the tech. That kind of like just stuck with me as like a really good and powerful way to learn. So after having some time in DevRel at Gatsby, AWS, like you said, Apollo, GraphQL, I had my own thoughts about how it should be done. But what I realized is that I don't have enough information. So clearly I'm missing pictures. And secondly, I'm not going to be able to really provide that type of environment for myself in a full-time job, because it's one environment and you're in that ideally for years, right? So I did consulting. I worked with startups, scale-ups, enterprise companies, and I just went deep into DevRel. Plus, I'm of course interested in the, talking to everybody in the industry. I mean, it really helped. Like, I really feel like I had such a better understanding at the end of that like year and a half. And so coincidentally enough, there was a bit of a downturn in the market. Hot leads started turning into cold leads. And then right when I was like, this is my least favorite part of the job. Do I want to keep doing this? I actually got like the referral, like a reach out, like about an open position at Slack. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right, Kurtis, one final question. What is your favorite non-technical hobby?
Oh, I have to pick between two. I'm going to say photography and street photography. It's very close to that and riding my motorcycle. But
I love it.
Both of them serve the same purpose, though, which is like what we talked about, like anxiety and like pressures in work and stuff. And with my history, like it's very easy for me to live in the past or the future and not in the present. And both street photography and my motorcycle forced me to be extremely present. And so I really enjoy those two hobbies because it lets me just be in the moment. Like I'm not worried about something, whereas I normally am worried about everything.
Yeah, I love it. All right, Kurtis, thank you so much for the great conversation and information. That was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun. I had such a good time.
I want to thank you for listening. And I, of course, want to thank Kurt for all that great information and conversation. It was just a lot of fun. If you want to learn more about this podcast and being an admin, head on over to admin.salesforce.com. And of course, if you want to learn more about Slack and artificial intelligence, head on over to Trailhead. Thanks again, everybody. And I will talk to you soon.